Let's try this again. I apologize for yesterday. It was super short. I just ran out of energy. But I'm gonna try to stick with this one and make it a full-fledged stream. So yeah, and I have absolutely no idea what time I'm gonna stream these. So that's going to be inconsistent, but hopefully if I upload them or make them public at like 5 my time every single day, that'll make it so that the algorithm's not impacted. Uh, but we'll see. Um, Happy to see you, my friend Z-Boy. If you have, well, I mean, it says there's only one viewer, but if anyone else is watching and you haven't subbed to this, can't believe I lost my train of thought there. To this man among men, this, I almost called you the pop king, but I don't want people confusing you with Michael Jackson, as in like a legendary musician. um, but yeah, please do sub to him. He's trying to get to 900. His content is very much worth watching, creative, and that's what I'm hoping to do with mine. Is make it creative, make it fun, make it energetic. All right, my apologies. Fresh 2000, or should I say, Fresh 2000. The the King's Guard, the right hand man to King T'Challa. What more can we say? And I am I was gonna say I am Iron Man. You can view me as Tony Stark's right hand man. That's the moniker I'm gonna give myself. The right hand of the Crimson Avenger. Pretty sure I've heard him called that before, Crimson Avenger. You know, forget about Peter Parker, Spider-Man. That's just mostly MCU thing. No, I'm the real right-hand man of Mr. Stark. Forget about Pepper too. Like, yeah, I'm his underling. And we're pretty much gonna have fun with me just discussing the idea of that whole thing. All of you, I'm sure, are familiar with Ironheart. I'm going to keep my opinions on her out of this because I don't want there to be any negativity. I respect the fact that, and as we all should, every character has fans. And let's make something perfectly clear here. When you dislike a character, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. If you like that character and disagree with the person who's shown their distaste for that character, there's nothing wrong with that. These are works of fiction. It's art. It's meant to be interpreted. It's meant to be criticized. It's meant to be looked at differently. Having said that, you pretty much already know where I stand on Ironheart. But again, this isn't the channel for that, or at least not the video for that. So, exactly. Since this is off the cuff, I haven't written anything. I'm basically going to be figuring it out as I go along, and my plan for this stream is to have this be sort of like a planning phase for what if I was writing an Iron Man comic that would spin off into a series featuring a fictionalized version of myself as his sidekick and basically his Robin. Um, as well as discussing, how would my suit be different? How would it be similar? What would my name be? Um, and we can have fun with that. So, uh, I'm not going to use my real name. Even though it might be better to do that because it's not a name that necessarily screams superhero. No, I don't want to go with my real name. And I have personal reasons for that. Uh, which we won't get into. Anyway, okay, so. Uh, so first of all, let's figure out. I don't know about Iron Black Angel, but something Angel might fit. Have to work on that. Because here's the thing, right? Like, you look at certain superheroes, and their sidekicks don't always have their names don't always have a direct correlation with the name of the heroes that they let's say study under, right? Like Batman and Robin. It's not Batman and Batboy. Yeah, there's Batgirl, of course, but then you look at Dick Grayson becoming Nightwing, right? He's not Nightbat. He's not Batwing. I am aware of the fact that there is a Batwing character now, but that's besides the point. So, the one thing I can tell you is, again, yeah. And this stream will be called Planning Out My Idea for an Iron Man comic, in which planning out my idea for an Iron Man comic, something along those lines, making it perfectly clear that this is just for fun. That's all there is to it. Okay, so maybe for now I'll go with see, I don't. Now that I think about it, I don't want to go with Angel. Well, that's my anxiety talking, pal. I can't do anything about that. I don't want to go with Angel because the X-Men member named Angel, right? So let's say, okay, so War Machine is typically viewed as his sidekick, right? And it has nothing to do with iron in its name. So, let's think. If I wanted to include iron in the name, I might go with something like Iron Defender. I might go with something like Iron Knight. I might go with something like here's an idea for a name. Battalion. How does that strike you? Battalion. Because it fits, right? It has to do, I mean, all Iron Man armors, all War Machine armors are quite literally, well, a one-man army. So what about Battalion? I don't know. I like that. I think it has a ring to it. Battalion. Um. Also, thank you so much for the 2 likes. I really appreciate that. Battalion. I'm embarrassed to admit I don't actually remember exactly what it means. I believe battalion refers to like is something similar to like a fleet, so maybe that wouldn't work. Um, and I can't look it up because if I do that, the stream's gonna stutter. See, maybe not battalion. Well, I mean, battalion could work if, yeah, it could work if that was my thing, but okay. Here's an idea. So maybe while I'm being trained by Tony, let's say that I'm a scientist that he has taken an interest in. He sees my talent. He appreciates what I'm trying to do. Given that Tony Stark, in his heart, is all about trying to build a better future, right? And he just, builds those Iron Man suits to protect the world. Um, you know, he might look at me and say, "Well, I notice how he wants to do a lot of good for the world. Like he wants to use science to better humanity. And he's also very interested in engineering and like he's anti-war like I am." Um I don't know how much that comes across to people, but yes, Iron Man is anti-war. It's probably obvious if you've seen the first Iron Man movie. That's the sole reason why he stops uh, weapons manufacturing. Um, but he might also see me as a better him, someone who hadn't hasn't struggled with the demons he has. Someone who doesn't have the problems with alcohol, all that stuff. So, and we're going to expand on this, and this will be more organized in the future. Um, to all my viewers, I will refer to you as my editors. Um, which right now I only see a fresh 2000 commenting, but you are my sole editor from now. Um, it's like we're planning a board meeting. Anyway, so since what could separate me from Iron Man is being more known for uh you know what? I know I'm backtracking, but I don't actually like that idea anymore. um what? All right. Need a name. Need a name. Need a name. Give me a few seconds. You know what's funny when I talk about things, I notice I actually am a lot like Tony Stark in the MCU. Because you remember how he gets easily sidetracked at times? When he's speaking with Jarvis, he's coming up with things. He might look at his car and randomly say, "Okay, let's go with this color. Wait a minute, I changed my mind." That's another reason why I'm like I feel a connection with him. Because we get easily sidetracked. I'm pretty sure Tony Stark is supposed to be ADD, whether it's intentional or not, at least in the MCU. Um, that's a great idea. Um, so let's start with okay. Let's see. The reason I'm being quiet is because I'm just thinking. Um, and when you're brainstorming, it does tend to take a bit longer until the creative juices start flowing. So, what will my name be? Yes. Thank you for saying that again. I really do appreciate that. Again, I'd rather not go with that because Angel already exists. He's a member of the X-Men, but that's not a bad name. Um, like, just like how. Well, never mind. I don't need to get sidetracked. Okay. Watch out, little one. I was talking to my cat. That's just now. Well, you know what? This always helps me. Hello, Matt N3M. Welcome to the stream. As I was gonna say, I'm gonna. This usually helps my process. With my process. So if we look at Green Arrow, for example, his sidekicks' names have been Speedy, Red Arrow, and Arsenal. No need to get back into Batman. I already discussed him. So I want a name that has to do with the fact that I'm basically a human weapon, right? That's what the Iron Man suits are. Um, So, also, what time is it? I've got it. I think I've got it. Munition. I think it works. It refers to weapons that are used in war. Now, that does sound counterproductive because my character is going to be a lot like Iron Man in that he's anti-war. But I think it's a good placeholder name, at least. Munition. I didn't look up battalion. Okay. So we're going with munition for now. I also saw as a synonym the word ordnance. I don't know if ordnance sounds like a name or could work as a name. You can make anything work as a name, but I don't know if it fits. So let's go with ordnance or munition. Now, I'm gonna say that my character's background is that he always had an interest in science, and he saw what Iron Man was doing, and initially only wanted to become an employee of his. He wasn't a genius. He was smart, but not a prodigy like Tony is. But intelligent, hardworking, and never gives up. Also imaginative. And he believed that not enough people saw Tony's vision and thought that if he could work for him, maybe he could help kind of um advertise or even in a weird way campaign for him. Not because you want ideas to be shared if they're important to you and if you think it represents a vision that's gonna make the world a better place. Um, and so he's just basically a person who's honestly tired of seeing weapons used for destruction and not as deterrents. His motto, if you will, would more or less be weapons for defense, not offense. Um, And so, I imagine that would even factor into the suit that he had, the armor that he has, as well. So, and going along with the fact that, he's obviously much younger, hopefully he's going to, take what's been developed by Iron Man, by Tony, and in a way sort of advance it or take it in a new direction. Also maybe help him think of ideas that maybe he hadn't thought of before. Um, he's gonna be more focused on um futuristic tech, futuristic weaponry. Think weapons that don't actually exist in the real world. And Tony kind of does that too. Um, as you'll notice in Iron Man 2, which I know people don't really care for, but I love it. Um, he introduces more energy-based weapons. Um, which expands as the movies progress, right? He'll still use missiles, but he does focus more on his repulsors and energy-based weapons. Um, and I think that is how Munition would also do things. Um, not use, you know, missiles per se, just basically laser based weaponry. And going along with that, because that would require a lot more power, his armor includes um let's just say has ways of gathering energy, extra energy to make that possible. I want to make this very clear. I have only read a few Iron Man comics. So it's possible that Iron Man does this now. But as far as I'm aware, his only power source is the arc reactor. He doesn't have like solar panels or anything akin to that absorbs energy from other sources. And I'm sure his arc reactors become longer lasting as his technology gets better and better. But since we're talking about a character who's going to become his sidekick, and we're going to want the character to be different enough, um, an armor that is both self-sustained and also fueled by external energy sources, I think would be uh, a great change. It would separate him enough. Oh, I won't. Um, the differences are mainly going to be in the design of the armor. One second. We're not going to worry about the details of the armor just yet. Okay. So, let's now go figure out his um his true identity. I'm thinking first name's going to be Colin. Second name is going to be Tanner. Let's go with Colin Tanner. um so Colin Tanner, aka Munition. Um he um I guess we should give him more background, right? So I know with Ironheart, uh I think she comes from a rather poor family. I don't remember about James Rhodes, but uh we'll assume that since he's known Tony for such a long time that financial problems were never a worry of his. But with Colin, I'm going to say that he isn't one of those characters who becomes a sidekick or an underling or meets the hero he works for out of necessity. We'll say that he had a pretty, basic life. Nothing, crazy happened. He just really wanted to do good for the world. And he latched on to Tony Stark. and his views, and saw good in him. And didn't allow himself to think about all the rumors and the supposedly bad uh traits that he has. He's not a fanboy. Um, Now Tony's also pretty selective. So Colin is going to have to do something that gets his attention. I'm thinking it's not related to science. What if Colin has done all he can to gain employment with Stark Industries and keeps getting turned down? But he refuses to accept that. He decides, no, I'm going to work for Stark Industries, no matter how long it takes. And in time, Tony Stark looks at this and he kind of he kind of admires it about him. Like, we keep telling him no, but he's dead set on working for my company. Like, I should meet this guy. And this would, to me, lead to an interesting arc in which Tony becomes a bit more humble. Um, he starts to think, this young man, diligent worker, is intelligent, not the best, but he pushes himself. He has quite an imagination, and he's ambitious. And so maybe they'd have kind of like a Bruce Wayne and Terry McGinnis relationship. Not literally, of course, because Tony Stark is not an old man in this. What I mean by that is, while Terry does um, become Batman at night, and I think even during the day, he also works as Bruce's assistant. So my idea is that Tony approaches Colin and says, "Look, I don't have a spot for you on any of the teams, on any of the projects, but I respect your ambition. You know, I like the fact that you only want to work for my company. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have you serve as my assistant and secretary. That way, you'll learn more about things. People will get to know you better. Um, but I will also include you in what I'm personally doing. Uh, that way you'll be an employee of mine, and that'll kind of like serve as your cover. And it's like, look, even though I do crazy stuff, um, even though I do crazy stuff, my people have to accept you. You know what I mean? I couldn't just bring you in, give you a job, and be like, hey, everybody, here he is. Um, so if you're my personal like assistant, doing simple things for me as your job, and then outside of that, I'm seeing what you're capable of. I'm teaching you things just to see where you can take it. You know, I think that would be just as good as what you wanted. And so, um, plus, I also have to think about the Avengers. Um, they might be suspicious of some new guy being brought in uh and whatnot. But you also remind me of myself, how in my eyes I should have been. Um, I see you as like a clean version of me. What I mean by that, and what that means, this is not me speaking as Tony anymore. Think of what Tony Stark said to Peter in Homecoming, where Peter tries to stop something from happening. Tony tells him not to. He does it anyway. And then Tony has to show up himself, save the day. And they have that conversation where Peter's like, I just wanted to be like you. And Tony says, I wanted you to be better than me. That's his view of Colin. You don't come from wealth. Um, you're not a war profiteer like I was. You don't like have my baggage basically. But what you do have is pretty much all of my good qualities. Right? You want to use this technology for the world, to protect people, to better their lives in many ways. Now, I think something interesting to add would be to say that Colin doesn't, from this point, be given or build a Ironman like suit and start going with Tony. No, something has to happen to kind of force Tony into bringing him along. I think that's more natural. Um, Tony Stark doesn't strike me as the type to say, hey, you're working for me now. Here's an Iron Man suit. Come help me fight. So, how do we get to that point? Well, we'll say that for a time he just shares his secrets with Colin. Over time he begins to trust him a lot. He's kind of an errand boy in the beginning. Um like, hey, if I need you to get me a coffee, you do that. Uh so and I also don't want to make oh, all right. That could work. Okay. Okay, I like this idea. So they notice that Tony has a new guy who's accompanying him, and they want to get to Tony. I'm sure they've done this story before with Pepper Potts, but because Colin has been on the down low, like when I said assistant, I didn't mean like necessarily on the books. I meant working for him, but like not necessarily on the payroll. Kind of like working privately. And Tony did that because it's like if this kid, if in time he becomes more than just a helper to me, I want to make sure that none of my enemies try to target him because he's a civilian. Like he's not a hero. He's not, you know what I mean? He's not like basically Colin doesn't really have any interest in being some kind of crime fighter or superhero. um and so and I personally would like to come up with a brand new villain for this, but we can decide on that in another stream. Because Colin's going to need his own villain. So let's say that a villain who initially starts as an Iron Man foe in this comic goes on to become like the arch nemesis or one of the big bads for Colin. So we'll just keep it simple and say, yeah, these this villain, this group, whichever, they can't get to Tony, right? He's experienced. He's been Iron Man for a long time. He's not perfect, but he's a pretty hard man to get to because he learns from his mistakes and he adapts. So how do we get to him? Is what the villains are thinking. Who is like a weak link for him? We could try and target his employees, but they're protected. Like let's assume that they're protected, right? You're not going to go after any scientists that are working directly under Tony or working for a team because that's going to be known about, and then like whoever they target needs to be someone that Like, Tony isn't gonna expect being targeted. But they also need to find out about Colin. And if Colin is, like, more or less being hidden, not necessarily literally, but again, no reason to suspect that he's associated with any of these big projects in any way. And, it's like, well, why would we think that he would have important information that we would want to use against him? Why would we have any reason to think that he knows, about the Iron Man technology? Hello, Starry Victoria. Welcome. Um, that's a, I mean, that could work. Dating a spy. You know what? I do like that. I mean, it sounds a bit Batman. It sounds a bit Bruce and Selena Kyle, but why not? Um, I mean, the difference here is that Selena Kyle wasn't like a villain or associated with a villain of Batman's. So that's a pretty significant change. So yeah, okay. We'll say that he's dating someone who turns out to be a spy. Let's call her Clarissa. I'm pretty sure there's already a Victoria. There could be a Clarissa, but let's call her. Oh, you're responding to Victoria. I apologize. Yeah, let's call this character Clarissa Stewart. Clarissa Stewart. Okay. So Clarissa, I mean that could work too. How does she meet Colin? How does she? Okay. Let's say that Clarissa is not just a spy, but also hmm. See, I was gonna say, what if she's also a reporter who works for the Daily Bugle? But if I'm not mistaken, Mary Jane at some point becomes a reporter or works for the Daily Bugle, and I don't want to make this character Colin's Mary Jane. I don't want to make him essentially another Peter Parker. So maybe she works for. Nah, Shield wouldn't work. Because, well, she has to be a spy working for someone. Actually, no, she doesn't. No, 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 no. This is what happens. She's blackmailed into it. It's against her will. Um, yeah, she's blackmailed into it. Um, Also, just let everybody know this. I'm gonna be ending this stream soon, probably in 4 minutes. I don't know. Actually, probably in like 10 to 20 minutes. But yeah, we'll keep it going. So, um, um, she's blackmailed into it. Um, we'll say that this organization, uh, simply wants to get their hands on Tony's tech. Yeah, but I don't like. I'm kind of tired of the turning over a new leaf type of thing. Or like I was bad, but now I'm good. And I'm also trying real hard not to make her into like another Black Cat. I know Black Cat's not a villain, but she can appear like to be sort of shady at times. I'm not trying to create a Catwoman for Colin here. To be associated with. Um okay. Let's say Clarissa, I don't know if you like this idea, is related. No, because if she's related to James Rhodes, they wouldn't need Colin. She's related to someone in the military, let's say, like. I mean, I hear you, but I really don't like Catwoman at all. I never have. Um, Although, there's no reason why this Clarissa character couldn't be the one that turns out to be his like main foe or one of his main foes, right? I actually that would be better. Okay, so let's change it to Clarissa being the daughter of whoever owns the company that wants information on Tony. And she does it because she wants to help out. Um, I'm gonna say that her father, whose last name would also be Stewart, let's call him Mason. Stewart. We could change that name, but for now he's Mason. He The one thing he cherishes more than anything in the world is his daughter. We could say his wife too, unless his wife is no longer living. And Clarissa really wants to help, but he won't let her for the longest time. Like, I'm not putting you in danger, even though Tony, he's not gonna do anything to you because you're a civilian, you're not a criminal or anything like that. I'm still not willing to risk it. And somehow, some way, she convinces him, look, I'm not gonna be snooping around. All I'm gonna be doing is looking for, like, I don't know, something as simple as like a mailman, someone really low level who wouldn't know anything, to try and get my foot in the door, and then slowly work my way into getting to the man himself. And that's how she meets Colin. Now, maybe we'll say that Colin actually does have a job with Stark Industries, but it's nothing to do with technology. Maybe he's something as simple as, like, a cafeteria worker. Like, that's kind of like a cover for him. Thank you very much, Starry Victoria. I truly appreciate that. And with yours and hopefully other people's help, maybe I can get out there. But let's just keep having fun with this for now. So he's a cafeteria employee. Again, this could change. After this stream is done, I am going to listen to it again and write down these ideas. So, So Clarissa, does that. And I think we're more or less going to end it off there for now. Because I am going to be leaving, and I at this moment can't really think of how this is going to go, how this should go, how this could go. The specifics, if you will. But in closing, we'll call this Munition Stream number 1, creating a sidekick for Ironman. And Fresh, if you could do me a favor and text me what I just said, for this stream's title, because I'll forget it. I would greatly appreciate that. But thank you so much, to all who attended. This stream will be posted at 5, which will give me enough time to give it a thumbnail, add the necessary tags. So the title of this stream is going to be Munition, first Munition stream, creating a sidekick. No, wait. Munition Part 1. Creating a sidekick for Ironman. Yeah, Munition Part 1, creating a sidekick for Iron Man. And with that being said, thank you, everyone, um, who gave a like, who left a comment. To those who watch after the fact, if you like what you've heard, and you maybe want to come around for the next stream and brainstorm, because that's kind of my whole thing. This isn't my show. It is my idea, but I want you all to kind of serve as like my editing team, as like my creative team. Um and join us on our journey. And consider leaving a like. Please comment. And if you enjoyed this, please subscribe. And with all that being said, there's something I have to tell you all. I've kept it secret for a while. The truth is, I am Iron Man.